The home buying insanity continues, and boy, is that a mistake with what you guys are about to see coming up. Watch this. What's going on, my YouTube friends? This is Jerry Abbott, your #1 real estate resource here in beautiful Las Vegas. Hey guys, a couple of quick things before we dive into the video. If this is your first time on the channel and you want to learn the cold hard facts about the Las Vegas real estate market and real estate in general, make sure you subscribe to the channel down below. Number 2, also make sure to give me a thumbs up like, guys. That would really help the channel out. And number 3, if you are thinking about relocating to beautiful Las Vegas, whether it's next month or next year, I've got your back. I'm a local real estate agent here. I've lived here for nearly 20 years. I know every inch of the city. When the time is right for you, just call, text, or email me anytime, and I'll help you find that perfect dream home. Let's dive into the video. So have you guys ever heard or seen Albert Einstein's definition of insanity? Take a look at it here on screen. It basically means doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's exactly what's happening right now in the real estate market, and in the upcoming segments, I'm going to show you how to avoid those pitfalls and the insanity of buying into this market. Let's take a look at it right now. All right, so now let's take a look at this first of several new articles that just came out, and I want to talk about this one first because this is the elephant in the room that a lot of people are not talking about. It's talking about the inverted yield curve. You can see this headline here. This just came out from CNBC talking about this classic recession indicator just hit its lowest level since 1981. That's the yield curve. Now, I don't want to get too detailed about it because it's a little bit confusing, but I want to just show you two charts here. The one on the left here says normal, and the one on the right says inverted. A normal economy has this kind of a yield. Right here, it goes up and to the right. An inverted yield goes all the way down and to the right. This is the lowest levels since 1981. So over 40 years it's taken to get to this kind of a point. Now, a lot of people don't understand really what the yield curve is. And again, I don't want to get into the details of bond maturities and how that works. But in terms of how it relates back to the economy, when we see an inverted yield curve this badly, all the way down to the right, that means a recession is brewing. This has taken about a year to get to this point. And what I want to do is I want to show you this right here. Take a look right here where I highlighted this paragraph going back to 1978. It takes about 15 months for the inverted yield curve to finally create a recessionary situation. And right now, what it says right here at the bottom of this paragraph, it says applying this time frame to the current inversion, we could enter a recession by October of this year. That is only a few months away. That is something that I think is definitely going to happen. And this inverted yield curve is very accurate in predicting future recessions. All right, so let's take a look at this article that just recently came out from CNBC as well last week. Take a look at that headline where it says mortgage rates soar to 7.22% after strong economic data. That means the economy is still too strong for the Fed, and that's why they're continuously raising rates. They are likely going to raise rates again, as you're going to see in the upcoming segment. About a 95% chance they're going to raise this month and potentially again in September because inflation in the economy is still too strong. That's why I see mortgage rates going up into the mid-8s, possibly 9%, and there's going to be less buyer demand at that point because less people will qualify, and ultimately that is going to bring home prices down by the time we get to the end of this year. All right, so I want you guys to watch this 30-second clip that just came out last week from Fox News talking about how the Fed rate hikes are going to ultimately crush the housing market. I want you to listen to this person's opinion, then I'm going to come back on the other side and comment on it.
It is going to crush some very interest rate sensitive industries such as real estate. And I think we're going to see a multi-year, maybe decade-long fallout, first on commercial, and then we will eventually get to housing, Jackie, where there will be a fallout. Housing has been incredibly strong despite all of the turmoil going on with respect to rates, with respect to pulling in of the economy. And so therefore, I believe that there are certain sectors that you need to go ahead and focus on. I think tech will continue to remain strong. Housing and other interest rate sensitive industries are going to go ahead and lag.
So I basically agree with what he's saying because housing has been incredibly resilient over the last couple of years. But here's what happens when the Fed continues to raise rates continuously like they keep doing. Eventually, when you get punched enough times, you're going to get knocked down. And housing is going to get knocked down because the Fed is not done raising rates, and that's ultimately going to lower prices. And I think it's going to lower prices for quite some time because rates are not going down anytime soon. All right, so this is the CME Fed Watch Tool website. Now you can see right next to my picture, there's a live countdown clock to the next FOMC meeting, which is in about 15 days from the time that I'm filming this, but it's going to be around 10 days by the time you guys see this in a few days. But I want you guys to take a look down here as we scroll down into the main chart. You can see this little blue bar that says 7% and this large one that says 93%. Now the current Fed rate right here, you can see at the top says 5 to 5.25, which is where we're at right now. there's a 93% chance right here that we go from 5.25 to 5.50. That means the Fed is likely going to raise 1/4 point. There's a 93% chance right now, about 2 weeks out. So again, the Fed is definitely on the move to raise rates again. They paused last month, but now they're on the move to make them higher this month and likely again in September because again, inflation is not under control, which means interest rates are going up. That means mortgage rates are going up, which means it's going to be more expensive to borrow money, which again is going to weaken buyer demand. And ultimately, that's why I see prices coming down closer to the end of this year. All right, so let's take a look at this article that just came out a couple of weeks ago from Business Insider. You can see the headline here where it says housing inventory is so tight in the U.S. that prices are barely off their all-time highs set last year. If we take a look right here in the second bullet point here, it says homes are selling on average for $383,000, about $4,000 less than the all-time high set last June. Here's what I want you guys to take a look at here, though. I want you to look at this chart right here. The red line is last year, 2022. The orange line is 2023. We are basically copying and mimicking exactly what happened last year, and then look what happens on the back half of last year. It completely drops off. That's why I keep telling you guys, even though inventory is at record lows, with interest rates going up, there's going to be less buyer demand, and less buyer demand means inventory is going to come back on the market. When I see a line like this, and then we see this from last year, this is like running into a burning building if you're buying now. Take a look at that line. We're definitely, in my opinion, going to drop off in the back half of this year, especially as the Fed raises rates. That's why I keep advocating for that, and that's why I think you guys should be patient. So let's take a look at this housing affordability index chart broken down into 4 smaller charts to represent the 4 quadrants of the United States. You've got the Northeast in the upper left, the Midwest in the upper right, the West in the bottom right, and the South in the bottom left. Now this chart goes back 33 years, okay? This shows you in the bottom right where we're kind of currently are, even though this only goes to the April-May period, we are in the lowest levels of housing affordability in over 30 years. In the middle of the charts, all of these were when we recovered after the '08 crash, we had very high housing affordability, and now you can see the bottom right, all the way down here in each chart, we are at the lowest levels of housing affordability. This is unsustainable. Over the last 30 years, this is the lowest level ever, and that's why I think things are eventually going to change, because as rates go higher, we're going to have home prices come down to make it affordable. We've yet to get to that point. That's why, again, we're at the lowest levels ever in the last 30 plus years, but I do think that's going to change, especially as we get through the rest of this year and into 2024. All right, so now let's drill down specifically into my neck of the woods here in Las Vegas. I want you guys to take a look at that headline right there where it says Las Vegas home prices hit plateau in June. Now, this article came out about 10 days ago from when you guys are seeing it, but I want you guys to take a look at right here where I highlighted those 2 gray sentences that I'm going to read to you real quick. It says, after increasing gradually for a couple of months, it looks like local home prices have hit a plateau. Now, this is exactly what happened last year. This is why I'm trying to show you guys the first half of the year is like that building phase where prices start to go up, demand starts to go up, and then as we get to that June, July time period, it seems like that's right at the point where we hit the plateau like we did last year, and then right as we get to this July time period, it starts to reverse the other way. This is almost identical to what happened in 2022. That's why I'm telling you guys, especially here in Las Vegas, but I think also for the overall real estate market as well, the back half of this year is where we're going to see the downturn, especially because the Fed is raising interest rates in the course of this month and potentially in September as well. So I just want to piggyback off that last segment, staying in the Las Vegas area. I want you guys to take a look at this chart. This is the Case-Shiller Home Price Index chart for Las Vegas over the course of the last year. So you can see where the purple line here is back in August of 2022, and then it just really starts to fall all the way through the end of last year, all the way through the spring of this year. Now, it doesn't mean the past performance is going to be the future performance of what's going to happen in the real estate market, but this is a really good indicator to show you what happens on the back half of the year in terms of real estate, especially here in Las Vegas. We saw the demand all the way back here in August of last year, and then just look at the gradual decline all the way down through the end of last year into the beginning in springtime of this past year. So again, this is a good indicator, guys, to determine the back half of the year is where we start to see less buyer demand. And again, because the Fed is on the move to raise rates pretty strongly in the back half of this year, it's a very good indicator to me that we are going to see a downturn in real estate prices because demand is just not going to be there. And I think that's where we're going to see inventory go up, especially here in the Las Vegas area, and prices, meaningful price drops, are going to start to happen right as we get to the holiday time period and into the beginning of 2024. All All right, so now I wanted to show you guys a few specific examples of homes for sale in the Las Vegas area on the popular real estate website Zillow, because I want to show you guys some of the insanity that's still going on, especially here in the Las Vegas real estate market. Let's take a look at this home first. It's in the luxury space, beautiful modern home. It's listed at about $2.9 million, but more importantly, I want you guys to take a look down here in the bottom right. About 2 years ago, this home was sold for about $1 million. The seller then tried to put it on the market about 14 months later. So just over a year later, they tried listing this for $3.4 million, and there were no takers. And then gradually over the course of the end of last year and into this year, it's gone from 3.2 to 3.1 to 3, and now it's down to 2.9. So again, even in the luxury space here, there's a lot of overpricing going on. So you don't want to jump in and buy homes, especially at this point when sellers still think they're going to get prices from last year. These prices are going to continue to come down, in my opinion, even in the luxury space, and working all the way down to the average price point. Let's take a look at the next example. All right, let's take a look at this Las Vegas home for sale. Take a look right next to my picture. You can see that the price point that they have it currently listed at is $750,000. But again, more importantly, I want to show you the price history during the pandemic of this specific example home. Take a look down in the bottom right there. I've got the arrow right there where it says March 2020. That was the starting point of the pandemic. This home was valued at $540,000. Now, if we move the arrow all the way up here and we go all the way to June of 2022, you can see that that price was $850,000 in June of last year. So in the course of 3 years, this home has gone up $300,000 during the pandemic, but now in the last year, it's starting to plummet. It's down about 17 or 18%. You can see the way Zillow estimates the value is at $711,000. So again, this is a perfect example of that. If you're patient, these price points are starting to come back down to earth, because again, this market is completely insane still for a lot of these sellers trying to get last year's prices. And if you are patient, these prices are coming back down and they're moderating at least somewhat to a more of a normalized level. Even though I don't think that it's going to get back down into the 500s like it was pre-pandemic, I still think this home is going to get down into probably the 6s before it's all said and done. And that's a hell of a lot better than if you bought last year when it was well into the 8s. All right, let's take a look at this third and final example of a home for sale in Las Vegas. This is closer to the average price point here. You can see that it's currently listed at $480,000, but they did a price cut right at the beginning of July of $19,000. So this home was listed right around $500,000, still no buyers, so they just did a price reduction. But again, let's take a look down here at the bottom just to look at the history. Back in September of 2020, this home was sold at $348,000. Fast forward to last month of this year, so less than 3 years, they tried selling this home for $545,000. That's a $200,000 increase that they were trying to get in less than 3 years on this kind of a price point home. That is absolutely unheard of in the history of real estate. So again, this home has obviously had no takers at that price point. They're now down right there to $480,000, and I think it's definitely going to go down even more. This is what's going to continue to happen, in my opinion, on a lot of price points through the course of the rest of this year. So I got 3 words for you. Stop the insanity. Home prices and interest rates are near record highs, and yet people continue to buy into this popular spring-summer buying season, when historically speaking, the best time to ever buy a home is in that December through February time period. More importantly, I think interest rates are definitely going to be going up this month and potentially in the fall, which means buyer demand, in my opinion, is going to finally start to freeze up. And then ultimately, we are going to start to see some meaningful price drops with home prices. That's why patience right now is the wise option if you're thinking about buying a home. So before we end today's video, I just want to give a shout out to my favorite comment from last week's video, and that goes to Desert Gun. Now you can see his comments here on screen talking about when we get to the October time period, he thinks there's going to be higher rates, student loan repayments are coming back, and it's going to ultimately crater consumer spending, which ultimately is going to have an impact massively on home prices. That's what I think is going to start to happen. I think the scales are going to start to tip when we get to October, and that's when the economy shifts and the housing market as well. And just remember, guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure to leave me a cool or creative comment down below. And of course, like the video as well. And my favorite comment from this week's video, I'm going to give a direct shout out to in next week's video. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I also hope you appreciate my transparency. Like I've said before, I'm always going to keep it 100% real on this channel regarding the overall real estate market, with specific emphasis here in the Las Vegas area. So with that said, guys, like I've been advocating in many of my previous videos, don't buy a home right now if you don't have to during this popular spring-summer buying season. Wait it out towards closer to the end of this year, where I think even though rates are going to go probably higher, I think we're going to finally start to see prices dropping down like what happened last year. With that said, guys, if you are thinking about relocating to beautiful Las Vegas, whether it's in a few months or next year, I've got your back. I'm a local real estate agent here. I've lived here for nearly 20 years. I know every inch of this city. Just call, text, or email me anytime when that time is right for you, and I'd be happy to help you find that perfect dream home. I'll see you in the next video.